For decades, the global travel industry operated on a simple premise. Safety required massive physical infrastructure and corporate predictability. Companies built their reputations through imposing stone facades and historic structures designed to project a sense of permanent authority. Inside, travelers found identical marble lobbies and standardized check-in desks. People paid a premium for these sterile, uniform environments because it eliminated the anxiety of the unknown. Scaling this model was an exercise in raw capital. Adding capacity meant acquiring prime real estate and spending hundreds of millions of dollars on new construction for every single market. Because safety was tied directly to corporate ownership, the financial barriers for any new competitor were considered nearly impossible to overcome. In San Francisco, two designers tried to bypass those barriers out of pure necessity. Unable to pay their rent, they put 3 air mattresses on their floor and sold a place to sleep to convention-goers. Brian Chesky, who helped launch this initial experiment, soon discovered that their biggest hurdle wasn't finding customers, but overcoming a biological instinct. The concept of sleeping in a stranger's apartment violated basic human risk aversion. Most people are biologically wired to fear the stranger at the door. Traditional investors reached the same conclusion. They rejected the startup entirely, viewing a model based on unvetted strangers as inherently unsafe and impossible to scale. With no funding and maxed-out credit cards, they survived by hand-gluing hundreds of novelty election-themed cereal boxes. They sold those boxes for $40 each, using the revenue to pay for server costs and rent, while their primary business struggled to gain any traction. The cereal hustle kept them alive, but it didn't solve the core problem. To succeed, they had to find a way to bridge the gap of human trust. Their entry into the Y Combinator accelerator forced a total reevaluation. They had to stop thinking like designers and start thinking like behavioral engineers. Co-founder Joe Gebbia led the charge in redefining the company's product philosophy. The team pivoted to focus on behavioral design, prioritizing the mechanics of human interaction over the management of physical property. They began building a trust algorithm, a digital infrastructure engineered to lower the psychological hurdles that keep strangers from trusting each other. Global scale required them to use software to systematically dismantle human paranoia. The first bridge over this gap was host verification. By linking digital profiles to government IDs, the platform proved that the person you were renting from actually existed in the real world. They then implemented a two-way review system. This reciprocal data loop forced mutual accountability, as both guests and hosts relied on positive public feedback to keep using the service. To remove the aesthetic risk, the company sent professional photographers to legitimize amateur spaces, giving users visual proof of what they were buying. These combined layers of verification brought the perceived risk of a stranger's home down to a level that millions of people found acceptable. The result was an explosion of supply. The network scaled to millions of hosts across more than 190 countries without the company owning a single room. This rapid, assetless growth forced the traditional hotel industry, with its slow construction cycles, into a defensive position for the first time in a century. By focusing on the psychology of trust, the founders unlocked an entirely new tier of global housing supply that had previously been inaccessible to the travel market. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic acted as a brutal stress test, halting global travel almost instantly. Traditional travel hubs became ghost towns overnight. Major hotels began losing millions of dollars a day. They were trapped by the high costs of maintaining empty physical buildings that they couldn't simply switch off. Demand shifted away from the dense urban centers where traditional hotels are concentrated, as travelers began seeking out isolated, rural locations instead. The reliance on physical assets, once seen as a hotel's greatest strength, became a massive financial liability when consumer behavior changed. Airbnb also saw bookings plummet, but their decentralized structure allowed for a much faster recovery. Since they owned no property, the platform could shift dynamically. As demand for cities died, the network automatically recalibrated toward long-term stays and rural rentals. Today, the company generates billions in revenue as a global platform that facilitates more stays per night than many of the world's largest hotel chains. The lesson for modern entrepreneurs is that scale is no longer limited by what a company can physically buy or build. Airbnb never built a single hotel. They built the digital infrastructure for trust. proving that today's most powerful empires don't need to own the products they sell.